How's it going, everybody? I'm Dono and this is How to Happy. In this video we're going to be talking about the illusion of binary choices. So when I say the illusion of binary choices, what I'm talking about is a lot of times we make up these scenarios where we have to choose one thing or the other. So for example, you can either go to the party with your friend or you can go to your grandma's birthday, and that's the only two things that you can do, and you get so worried about picking between those two things, kind of listing out the pros and the cons, that it totally slips your mind that you can actually go to both events if you just go for part of the time. We get looped into these ideas that we only have two choices so often that a lot of times we're missing other opportunities and other decisions that we can make that would actually be better. I understand that we like to reduce our choices to the point where we can compare and contrast what's going on, right? If you have 100 different options, it's really hard to figure out the pros and cons. But the problem with reducing your choices down to these two options is a lot of times it leaves a lot on the table. A lot of times it's missing another more creative solution, and we just have the first two solutions that come to mind. Let's start with the example of going to college. So a lot of high school students, when they're finishing high school, they expect to graduate and hopefully get into a college, and they assume that they either go to college or they start their career and start working and get experience. Now, the thing is, those aren't the two options that exist. There's a wide range of options that can happen. You could work part-time or full-time while still going to school, part-time or full-time. There's just a big range that you can pick from. You could work for a year or two and then go to college. It's not like college disappears. You could go to college for a few years, then work, then go back to college. There's all these different options that you can choose, yet a lot of times we choose to reduce our options down to just this: either I go or I don't. The thing is, there's a lot of different paths that can lead to certain outcomes, so we need to try to stretch our creativity if we want to make sure that we're finding the best solution. Even scenarios that seem a little bit more concrete, like it's either a yes or a no, oftentimes aren't. So for example, if you go into interview for a job and they send you a message back saying that they don't want to hire you, it may feel like yes, then this scenario, it's either you got the job or you didn't. But even then, if you didn't get the job or they tell you that, you can still follow up with them. You can still ask for feedback. You can still ask for ways that you can prove that you want to do the job. And that might be enough to sway the decision maker's idea of you. That's how a lot of these things work, is there's so many more options that we have. Now, you may try a couple times and still not get the job, but what I'm saying is if you break it down as either yes or no, or just these two choices, then you're never going to be open to all these other creative opportunities that exist. Now, to be fair, there are a handful of times when there really are binary outcomes. It's either it happened or it didn't. There's one of two choices, one of two options. So for example, if you're playing a sport, at the end of the game, whatever that score is, that's the score. There's not another option because that's in the past and it's set. So that's not something that you would want to try to apply your effort towards changing because it's in the past. However, for future outcomes, there's often a lot of opportunities we can come up with if we think about it a little bit. So if you're having a hard time getting looped into some of these binary choice options when it's actually an illusion and it's not actually just the two choices that you have, try brainstorming other options. If that doesn't work for you, try to get other people involved. You can practice either by bringing someone else in and saying, hey, I think these are the two options I have. Can you think of any other solutions? Or when people come to you and say, hey, I have this option and this option, try as hard as you can to brainstorm different options beyond those two. A lot of times bringing extra people in will help kind of jog the way that you're looking at it so that you can come at it from a new angle. This is a great way to practice so that for yourself, you can do it more often. Now, just one caveat to go along with that: if you ask someone to help you pick between two options, you need to also tell them explicitly to brainstorm new ideas, because if you say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this or this, they're gonna be put into the same frame that you're in and start thinking, okay, between those two options, what should we pick? So if you ask instead, here's the two options I see, can you brainstorm anything else? That's more likely to get their brain churning to create a different result between those two options. So the main thrust of the video is just getting at, a lot of times we have these options that we narrow down to two or maybe three or four, but in reality, there's so many more ways that we can approach things. In real life, often we have many opportunities and ways to leverage outcomes if we think about ways to do it and are creative. This isn't necessarily something that everyone can do naturally, so it may be something that you need to work at. Let's move on to the exercise section. Number 1, reflect on a past choice you thought was binary. Were there other options? Number 2, find an upcoming choice in your life that you feel is binary and see if you can come up with any other better solutions. Now, again, of course, there's some circumstances you can't be in two places at once type of thing, but a lot of times, like we were talking about with our first example, if you just go to one party for a little while and then go to your grandma's birthday for a little while, you can actually make both happen. So the main idea of the video is to not lock yourself into just binary choice making where you just say, I have this or this. Try to think of other alternatives that could also create a better solution for you. That's all I've got for this video. As always, if you have any questions, comments, topics you want me to cover, feel free to put them down in the box below, and I will see you next time. You can check out more content at howtohappy.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you can stay up to date on the videos. We've also got a Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook that you can check out. Reflect, take action, and enjoy life. See you next time.